Have any of you noticed people in your circle leaving Canada for any reason? There has been a lot of press lately suggesting that people are leaving Canada. Are they actually doing so? When can we expect to see the effects of balancing our services and job prospects with the supposed outflow of residents? Toronto's unemployment keeps rising 8.4%. Rents are decreasing but still high. Homeownership is out of the question. The great Canadian exit. Why everyone is leaving for decades. The world was sold a specific dream. If you want safety, stability, and a fair shot at a good life, you move to Canada. But right now, quietly and in record numbers, people are packing their bags and leaving. The dream isn't just fading. For many, it has become a financial trap. And today, we are going to uncover the real reason why foreigners and citizens alike are quietly walking away. From Canada, the honeymoon is over for decades. The story was simple and seductive. Canada was the promised land, a beacon of stability, safety, and opportunity. The unwritten contract was that if you worked hard, you bought a house. If you got sick, the government took care of you. If you moved here from abroad, you were making it. It was the American dream, but safer, kinder, and better. But something has broken in that narrative. You have likely felt it in your own life. Maybe you have noticed a friend quietly moving to Texas, a coworker transferring to London, or seen the growing number of posts on social media from people packing their bags and saying, "I'm done." This isn't just anecdotal evidence anymore. The numbers are in, and they are terrifying. We are witnessing a quiet exodus. Foreigners are leaving. Canadians are leaving. And the people who stay are asking a question that was unthinkable 10 years ago. Is it still worth it to live here? Today, we are doing a deep dive into this crisis. We aren't just looking at rent prices. We are looking at the systemic failure of an economy that has turned its back on the middle class. We are going to compare your grocery bill in Toronto to one in Texas. Ask why brain surgeons are driving Ubers. And answer the big question, is this just a rough patch, or is the Canadian dream officially over? The numbers don't lie. Let's start with the cold, hard facts. Because for a long time, the government and the media treated this exodus like a myth. They often cited that Canada is growing faster than any G7 country. And while that was true regarding intake, they forgot to mention the revolving door. In late 2024 and throughout 2025, we saw a shift that shocked demographers. Statistics Canada reported that net immigration, people packing up and leaving for good, hit levels we haven't seen in decades. In 2024 alone, over 80,000 people left the country. That is the entire population of a small city gone in a single year. But here is the statistic that should keep policymakers up at night: the reverse migration. A report from the Institute for Canadian Citizenship found that nearly 20% of immigrants leave Canada within 20 years. Recently, that timeline has accelerated drastically. We are seeing people leave within 5 years of arriving. This matters because Canada's entire economic model is built on a specific reliance on population growth. We bring in people to work, pay taxes, and fund the pensions of the aging population. If those people arrive, look around, and say, "No thanks," the whole system is at risk of collapse. By late 2025, the number of non-permanent residents actually dropped by nearly 6%. The endless supply of international students and temporary workers is drying up, partly due to government caps, but largely because word has spread globally that Canada is a trap. The cost of existence, the primary driver of this exodus, is a crisis in what I call the cost of existence. In 2025, Canada has become one of the most expensive places on earth to simply be alive. Let's look at housing. In Toronto, despite a cooling market, the average rent for a one-bedroom apartment hovers around $2,600. If you do the math on a salary of $60,000 a year, which is decent on paper, your take-home pay after tax in Ontario is roughly $3,800 a month. Once you pay that $2,600 rent, $150 for your phone and internet, and $160 for a transit pass, you are left with less than $900 for food, clothes, savings, and joy. And then you go to the grocery store. Food inflation in Canada has outpaced the US significantly. Canadians pay a premium for dairy, poultry, and produce due to protectionist policies and a lack of competition. When you compare the cost of a standard holiday dinner in 2025 Prices in the US actually dropped in some states, while in Canada, they rose again. When you combine some of the highest telecom rates in the world, high insurance rates, and high food costs, the Canadian premium eats roughly 20% more of your disposable income than if you lived just an hour south of the border. Homeownership is an even darker story. In the 1990s, the average home cost 3 to 4 times the average yearly income. Today in Toronto or Vancouver, it is 10 to 12 times. We have created a landed gentry, where if your parents don't own a home, you likely never will. For a skilled immigrant coming here to build a life, that realization that they will be permanent renters often the moment the dream dies. The income trap defenders of the status quo will often argue that while Canada is expensive, high wages make up for it. But this is the income trap. When we compare salaries, particularly in high-demand sectors like technology, the disparity is shocking. A software engineer in a senior role in the USA can expect to make between $150,000 and $200,000 USD. In Canada, that same role often pays between $100,000 and $130,000 CAD. When you account for the currency exchange, you are literally losing half your potential earnings by staying north of the border. It is not just tech, it is healthcare too. Registered nurses in the US can make up to $120,000 USD depending on the state, often with massive signing bonuses. In contrast, nurses in Canada have faced wage caps, like Bill 124 in Ontario, which effectively cut their pay relative to inflation for years. This is Brain Drain 2.0. If you are young, ambitious, and talented, the math simply does not work in Canada's favor. You pay higher taxes on a lower salary to buy goods that cost more. This is why we see graduates from top universities like Waterloo and U of T heading straight for the exit. They aren't unpatriotic, they can just do math. The healthcare collapse, one of the most common defenses of the Canadian system, is the existence of free healthcare. We might be poorer than Americans, the logic goes, but we don't go bankrupt if we break a leg. But we have to ask, what is the value of free if it is inaccessible? In 2024 and 2025, the system buckled. Over 6 million Canadians do not have a family doctor. That means for preventative care, checkups, or minor issues, their only option is a walk-in clinic if they can find one, nor the emergency room. There are horror stories surfacing everywhere. People needing hip replacements are told the wait is 18 months, forcing them to live in pain every single day. Many are now flying to India or Europe, paying out of pocket to have surgery done in weeks rather than years. We effectively have a two-tier system already. It's just that the second tier involves leaving the country. When skilled immigrants arrive here from countries like France or the UK, but they can see a specialist within days and are told to wait 14 hours in an ER for a fever, the illusion shatters. They realize that the world-class healthcare they were sold is a myth held together by duct tape and the goodwill of burnt-out staff. The immigrant trap. This brings us to perhaps the most shameful part of this story. The immigrant trap. Canada markets itself aggressively abroad, claiming to need engineers and doctors. We use a point system that selects the absolute best and brightest, meaning you practically need a master's degree to get invited. But when someone like Ankit, a civil engineer with 10 years of experience, lands in Toronto, the reality hits. He is told he has no Canadian experience, that his credentials aren't recognized, and that he needs to go back to school for 2 years. We are essentially importing Ferraris and using them to plow fields. This creates a deep sense of resentment. These are smart people who realize quickly that their standard of living has dropped. They went from being middle class in their home country to the working poor in Canada, driving taxis or working security to feed their families. Unlike 50 years ago, they have options. They can go back, or they can go to Germany, the US, or Australia, where their skills are actually valued. The quiet leaving is often these people, the best of us, packing up. After 3 years and admitting that coming here was a mistake, Toronto and the urban crisis. The crisis is most visible in our economic engine room. Toronto generates 20% of Canada's GDP. So if Toronto fails, Canada fails. And right now, Toronto is struggling. As of late 2025, the city's unemployment rate sat at a stubborn 8.4%. That is significantly higher than the national average and vastly higher than major U.S. cities like Miami or Austin. For young people in the city, the youth unemployment rate is near 15%. This is a city where you need a 6-figure salary to rent a decent apartment, yet the jobs aren't there. Beyond the economics, there's an infrastructure disaster. Traffic in Toronto is among the worst in North America, and public transit is unreliable. For a foreigner used to the efficiency of Tokyo, the vibrancy of London, or even the rapid development of cities in Asia, Toronto feels like a city in decline. It feels like a city that stopped trying. The greener pastures sow. If people are leaving, where are they actually going? The #1 destination by a landslide is the United States, specifically Florida, Texas, and Arizona. It isn't just the weather, it is the taxes. If you make $100,000 in Ontario, you pay roughly $25,000 in income tax, plus 13% sales tax. In Florida, you pay about $14,000 in federal tax and 0 state tax. You keep over $10,000 more of your own money every single year. That is a down payment, a car, or a vacation. And in places like Texas, you can still buy a beautiful detached 4-bedroom family home for $400,000. In Toronto, that money buys you a parking space. For those terrified of the US healthcare system or gun violence, they are heading to Australia. Australia has a similar culture, universal healthcare and high safety. But their wages are higher, their weather is better, and their economy is more dynamic. Canada is losing the competition for global talent because we simply aren't the best offer anymore. The psychological toll, there is one final reason people are leaving, and it is the hardest to quantify. It is the vibe. It is the psychological weight of stagnation. In Canada right now, there is a pervasive feeling that things are broken and nobody is coming to fix them. We see productivity falling, investment fleeing, and a government focused on short-term poll numbers rather than long-term structural repair. When you believe that your children will be poorer than you, you start looking for an exit. When you believe that hard work no longer correlates with success, that the only way to get ahead is to inherit a house the social contract breaks. The quiet exodus is essentially a vote of non-confidence in Canada's future. Conclusion. Can we stop the bleeding? So, is it over? Is Canada finished? No. This is still a country with immense resources, stability, and educated people. We can fix this, but we need to stop lying to ourselves. We need to admit that our housing market is a crisis, not an investment vehicle. We need to admit that our healthcare system needs radical reform, not just more money. We need to value productivity and innovation over real estate speculation. But until that happens, the exit doors will remain open. If you are thinking of leaving, you aren't crazy, you are rational. And if you are choosing to stay, we have a lot of work to do. You find it helpful? Like, share, and subscribe our channel for more information.